Hey, welcome back to The Deal. This is Danny Brown. This week's show is sponsored by The Platform in Culver City, the best men's merchandise, clothes, lifestyle. They pick all the best brands from around the world, every different cool boutique, and they bring it there. So go say hello, get a discount, tell them I sent you. Best place to shop. I get all my gear there. And today's episode, we have Ben Moss out of Miami, one of the top agents in the country, the head of the sports and entertainment division at Compass. He deals with a lot of the high-profile celebrity athletes and entertainers and clients that we have in common. You can find Ben at Ben Moss Group on Instagram and benmossgroup.com. School is in session. Please subscribe and tell a friend. You can find us anywhere you consume your content on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc., and video on YouTube. So please leave us a comment, subscribe, 5-star if you like what you hear, tell friends, appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon. Welcome back to The Deal, ladies and gentlemen. Today's guest, straight out of Miami, Ben Moss. How are you, Ben? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Danny. You too.
Last time I saw you, we were having cocktails in Austin at the Peacock Bar, one of my favorite spots in Austin. That was awesome. Hopefully I'll get to see you again soon on the beaches of Miami, but you're live and direct from Miami. You are the head of the Compass Sports and Entertainment Division, meaning you deal with a lot of high-profile athletes, celebrities, etc. Not as glamorous as people think it is. Obviously, I deal with a lot of the same clients and know what a grind that could be. We'll get into that a little later, but I wanted to start with, look, you're at the epicenter of the world now, Miami. It's really booming. And since COVID, it's been one of the markets, it's every other week, someone I know is moving to Texas or Florida. And I want to hear, you being a Miami-bred guy and being a Miami top guy in the country or a top agent in the country, top of Miami, why are people moving to Miami? Is it the mayor? Is it the taxes? Is it all of it? I'd just like to hear an insider's view of what's been going on in the trenches and why you think Miami is the place where everyone should be if they want business and better lifestyle. So plug Miami for us, Ben.
Yeah, it's sometimes I've struggled in the past to plug Miami, but right now it seems like it's very easy to plug. And so there's lots of nuances, lots of things happening. So yeah, I mean, I've been in Miami, I'm 43 now. I've been in Miami since I was 5 years old. So I've really seen the growth of this town.
Yep.
And I would say, it's from a macro perspective, it's been a provincial town for a lot of time, a lot of times in our history here. I mean, everybody knows about South Beach, but people don't put it on par with New York or LA or, some of the world-class cities. But I think now it's becoming a world-class city. Absolutely. And region. And so yeah, I mean, you mentioned taxes, you mentioned the good weather. I mean, those things for sure matter, but that's been the case for a long time. I think also the sense of community that's being built here now, as far as, people not just buying second homes, but they've been relocating their families, their kids, putting their kids in school here. I mean, it's a different thing. So obviously,
I just had a good friend and client that they moved their family from LA to Florida. So it's happening all around us.
Yeah. So some of the things that we're seeing now happen, I just sold 2 houses last week. By the way, 50% and 59% profit for my sellers in a year and in less than a year and a half in both cases. But both those families were from California. And I asked one of the couples from California, I said, what you do? And they said they just bought their house in California last year. And they said, you know what, Ben, we love California. We just bought our house last year, but we don't mind paying the taxes, but LA is going to, what? And I think they were referring to the crime, the homelessness, all this kind of stuff. I haven't been to LA in a couple of years, so it's hard for me to see it, but I'm just hearing the same thing over and over. We heard about the crime in Chicago and the crime in New York. And I think some of these things hopefully are getting under control, but yeah, I think it's in combination with, having more space at home, working from home so you can get more bang for your buck here. Prices per square foot are lower. You get weather year round, you get the tax benefits. And I think when you add it all up, the sense of community. So you've had so many people, first from New York, the tri-state area coming down, the finance community, hedge fund community. And then you had, more recently, the folks from a lot of people from Chicago as well, in that Chicagoland area. And then from California. And so, I've heard now medical freedom, don't have to wear masks, all these things. There's just such a combination of things that are happening. And prices are still lower. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck. And I think that also factors in.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Here we are on the back half of February in LA, and our kids are still wearing masks in school. And I don't want to get into a political debate. Obviously, everyone has their own views, obviously, and there's a lot of conflict around the medical and science and this and that. But at Florida, from my understanding, I was seeing friends and Instagram people in nightclubs a year and a half ago, like a couple months into COVID. It's been open, right? It's
It is a different world down here. I mean, that being said, I know because I've talked to you and other people in LA and New York, and those markets are on fire. So not everybody's leaving clearly, but
right, right.
but I think Miami is certainly benefiting from people that are coming here. And for $5 million, it seems like it's so weird. I mean, it's almost like that's a dime a dozen now. $5 million house seems like Miami's becoming a resort town. And so, it's got its share of problems as well. And my hope for Miami is that the people that are coming here really give back to the community and invest in the community. And I think we're starting to see those things happen. The mayor of Miami, Mayor Suarez, who's a great guy, born and bred down here as well. He announced a charter school, technology charter school that's opening up, and that's involved with Miami-Dade College, which is the biggest community college in the country as well. So, I think we're starting to see this community, the tech community and people like that coming here and wanting to make a difference and make investments for the long term,
Yeah,
which is cool. That wasn't the case before.
It really seems like your mayor is so pro business and welcoming and trying to bring in business and build business. Just it's amazing. It seems so different from what we've been experiencing here in LA. And yes, we have this awful homeless issue that's going on, but hopefully that will pass. But so, talk to me a little bit about from a real estate front, some of these watermark sales that you've had and others have had, so we can get an idea and a sense for those who are not in the Florida or South Florida markets. What kind of prices are we talking about in some of these? Because I've seen some huge sales.
Yeah, we just had a sale, pretty close to where I live in a very high-end area called Ponce Davis. And Ponce Davis is unincorporated Miami-Dade County, but it's on the mainland. It's not on Miami Beach, and it's not on the water. And there was a house that just traded there for $18 million, new construction. I mean, Ponce Davis getting $9 million a year ago was a big number. And there was one sale that was like 11 million. This is huge. I mean, this is like an amazing number. And so, we've seen 30-35%, in some cases 50%, as the two properties that I mentioned, price appreciation in a year. So another area like Pinecrest, which, a lot of celebrities, a lot of athletes live in that area. You can get like an acre of land in a beautiful gated house. $500-600 a square foot was a big number pre-pandemic. Now you're seeing routinely new construction trade for over $1,000 a square foot.
So it's doubled quickly.
Yeah. So, and on the condo side, but basically there's a 4.5 month supply of houses, single family homes above $1 million in Miami, and Broward County, just the north of us, is seeing a lot of benefit as well. I mean, there's a 3.5 month supply up there. So it's not just Miami. And then you go into Palm Beach north of that, and that's on fire. So, obviously South Beach is South Beach, and you're still seeing a lot of you haven't seen the overbuilding happen there. And a lot of the building that's been happening on the condo side has been in, the greater downtown Miami area. And, those condos are all being snapped up as well. So, and we haven't even seen the international market come back. And so I think, it's all domestic driven inbound from these primary areas that we talked about. But, I think what's going to happen next when you see what's happening in Mexico and, Argentina and Brazil, like you think all those people are already here or already own property in Miami, but I don't think so. I think once the borders open up, we're going to see a whole second wave of people coming in here buying property, which will, add additional support and price appreciation for a lot of the properties here.
This is just fascinating on so many levels because historically, Latin America and South America has always been a feeder market, especially the 80s, the 90s, et cetera, 2000s. And we've always heard about, wealthy South Americans buying homes and high rises, et cetera. But what you're telling me and what I've been hearing and you're confirming is that this influx is domestic driven, that the international audience hasn't even really started to tap in, and who knows what that will do. You already are seeing 50% to 100% appreciation in the last couple of years. I'm hearing the same thing, from Jonathan Spears, he's killing it on the 30A side of Florida, totally different part of Florida, but same sort of the same narrative in terms of this domestic influx and the high watermarks of pricing. So it's really fascinating, and I look forward to taking a tour with you when I'm there. So let's pivot a little bit and get back to you and the Ben Moss Group. You've been you run nationally the sports entertainment division for Compass. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, what the sports and entertainment division at Compass does, and what you and your group do in terms of your business and your volume and your team structure. And let's start with that, and then we can get back into where you started and when you first got into real estate. But let's start with today and what it's looking like now.
Yeah, so my team that I operate, Danny, is in Miami and Broward. So I was up in Parkland this morning, and that's a good hour and change north of me. But I love relationships. I mean, what I love about this business is building relationships. So I as long as I don't have the geographical constraint, once I get too far out of bounds, then I gotta refer that or do that sort of thing. But I've got a team here that we focus in Miami and Broward County, and last year we did 184 million in sales. And so we do good sales volume, and we've got 9 of us here. We've got a director of operations, so it's a good team. We have a good thing going here, and then I have 3 team members in Tampa as well. So we're actually the official team realtors of the Tampa Bay Bucks, which is awesome. Pretty cool, and we've got a 3-year agreement with them to do that. So team up there is kind of focused on that. I'm involved with the Miami Dolphins and some other local teams here. So it's primarily around educational initiatives. And that's my way of kind of giving back and adding value, because I find hanging out in the clubs, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I go to bed early and I get up early. So it's not conducive to be out late, even though South Beach offers that. And I used to, in a different era, I did some of that stuff.
Yeah. The good old days.
Long gone. Yeah. So, and then sports entertainment is interesting. I mean, Compass, we have over 35 offices, 35 regions of the country within our sports entertainment group. So, all the major sports markets for the most part, and as Compass has been opening up in Kansas City and Indianapolis, we're getting agents that are vetted, that have a certain number of transactions and understand how to deal with the confidentiality and the needs and wants of these high profile people, as you deal with as well. And so, we're working on some different initiatives right now, some educational initiatives. We've joined something which is pretty cool. We're the exclusive sponsor or partner of the Business Managers Forum. And there's about 60 plus business management firms, mostly LA, New York, and some Miami and London based entities. So, we've kind of gotten in with them, and we're focused on seeing how we can kind of change the narrative. We don't just want to have a fancy website and, stick our Compass name on the seats at Madison Square Garden. I mean, anybody can do that, but it's how do you actually deal with the gatekeepers, with the celebrities, with the entertainers, with the athletes? How do you add value? And I think a lot of it's around real estate education and, being present also for them. And we just had our national sports entertainment division call. We had a kind of a mental specialist on and a coach for high performers. And, I think as realtors, we're high performers. We have a lot of things we got to do every day. So it's not that dissimilar from the mindset that a lot of these entertainers and athletes have, and the ups and downs and the burnout and, all those things as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of correlations. We discussed that a lot with my fellows in the business. A lot. So just a quick breakdown: how many agents versus how many support staff are on your team? I always like to break that down.
So I've got 2 support staff right now, 2 salaried people. I've had 3 in the past, a marketing person, but I'm transitioning marketing and I'm hiring a inside sales agent right now as my 3rd person, because I think probably in your market, Danny, I've got so many buyers right now. Yeah. And I don't have the time personally to pick up the phone and call homeowners directly and do some of those things. So for the first time in my career, I'm hiring an inside sales agent that will be salaried plus bonus. And then, we'll see how that goes. But I think as the market changes, that'll help lead to a lot more opportunities to transfer those relationships into listings when the market turns a little bit. But right now I just need to get off market listings for my buyers.
Yeah.
And then I have, I think we're a total of nine people on the team, a couple that just came down from New York last year, getting settled here. But I if you can make it in New York, where you don't have an MLS, I think that's a good thing for South Florida. So I brought a couple New York mentality agents.
Yeah, some killers.
With that mentality onto the team here. Yeah, some killers on the team. Exactly.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning now, because I started with where you are today. Let's go back to where you grew up. You said you grew up in Miami. What was it like growing up in Miami at that time, the Pablo Escobar Miami days? What your parents did, and where you went to school, and how you even got into real estate. I know that's a lot of ground to cover, but let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah. Well, Miami was like a small town at that time. You could ride your bike, and I rode my bike to elementary school and things like that. It was a great place to grow up. I mean, obviously now with people texting while driving, you can't do that anywhere in most places, unfortunately. So it's a different childhood experience now. I think the one knock on Miami is if you're not a boater or golfer, it's kind of tougher to figure out ways to get out in nature. And like the weather's great, but those are some of the things. But yeah, growing up in the street playing kickball, basketball, like I was a total jock, and it was great. And I went to the University of Miami. My dad was a professor and a dean, so I got a free ride.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so that was good. And I got to work. I was a guy. Yeah, I went to the U. And so luckily when I was there, we weren't very good in football, but right when I graduated, I was friends with some ball players and stuff. We'd go out, drinking in Coconut Grove on Thursday nights. But I was also the guy that wore my suit to class and would hop on the metro rail and take that to downtown because I didn't have money to pay for parking in the garage at, on Brickell Avenue. So, so I was kind of like serious, but hanging out with them too. And I thought I was going to go into finance. Then I went to one of these. The way I got into real estate, to answer your question on that, is I went to one of these 3-day investment seminars and was just like all fired up. And I ended up flipping a house. And I took the lady to an Irish pub, and I was wearing a suit that was probably way too big on me. And I was hoping they wouldn't card me. And anyway, we signed the contract there. And then like the next day I went to an investment club meeting that I was going to these investment club meetings. And I said, hey, I have a deal. And I ended up assigning the contract to somebody there. Long story short, I made $7,000 on the deal, which I was like, holy shit, this is a lot of money right now. Yeah. But at the closing, there was somebody else there too. And I was like, who's this guy? So the guy that I assigned it to, I made $7,000. He assigned it for like another $85,000 to the guy who actually ended up buying it. And then that person ended up fixing it up and selling it. And I left a ton of money on the table, but I think I was making like $13 an hour at the University of Miami library at that specific time. So I said, hey, real estate, I'm in on this, but I ended up going into commercial real estate. So I went into real estate investment banking for a couple of years. Didn't like that. Went into office leasing. Okay. For 5 years. And that was great. Got a lot of transactional experience, but I felt like the learning curve wasn't shooting up high enough for me. Yeah. And anyway, ended up in residential real estate in 2008, 2009, right at the worst possible time.
Out of Miami.
But it was great. I learned a lot.
Yes, that time. So why don't you talk us, first of all, do you still have that MC Hammer style suit that you wore to that first deal in the closet somewhere?
No, luckily
I've got to rock that next time I come to Miami.
Yeah, I'm trying not to wear suits anymore now. It's just like, AG jeans and maybe a blazer and, some tennis shoes. Is like one thing I realized with the athletes is like I was the guy like trying to be all professional because I was young and wanted to, be professional with them. But I was like, they don't want to hang out with a dude in a suit. Yeah. For the most part. So then I, started realizing, so I dress for the audience now, but it's much more casual.
Interesting how that works. All right. So this is interesting. You grew up in Miami. Your father was a professor there. You went to school there. You had a network there. You got into commercial real estate. So you had some background in terms of language and business and contracts and property and this and that. So now you make the shift into residential in 08 and 09, right at the Great Recession. And Miami got hit hard because they had such a development boom and empty buildings everywhere. So talk to us. That must have been a real easy time to get into residential real estate.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I got in just before then, but then maybe 2008, things were still fine, or 2007, things were still fine. But then I knew I was getting into something that wasn't sustainable. I mean, you could feel it. Like it was like musical chairs. People were flipping condos 4 times. And I remember having one client that bought a place for $700,000, flipped, the property ended up going for like, I don't know, 1.8 million or something like that. It was crazy and it wasn't sustainable. But one thing that I said, okay, I'm not gonna be able to control the outcome on this because this is, 2009. I mean, like nobody was doing any deals. It's like the opposite of today. Like today, like so many buyers and not enough inventory. Then it was like, oh, there's a ton of inventory, but nobody wants to buy.
Everything was for sale. Right. They couldn't find a buyer.
Huh. Yeah, great time to buy. Right?
They didn't want it, no matter what the discount. Not interested.
Yeah. So my goal that year in 2009 was just to break even, to cover my expenses, and I made $17,000. So I said, all right, I did. Yeah, this was a success, But what I did that year was like go to every lunch, like take everybody to lunch, go to breakfast, like make introductions, just being out and about, trying to make connections and build that network because that was the only thing that I could control. Yeah, I couldn't control the deals, and and it was frustrating, but I think that set the stage for when things started to rebound. Then I was able to kind of jump in. I wasn't sitting there feeling sorry for myself, and I was like, oh, I got to make it happen. And so that was kind of what I did in 2009. And then then the market came back, and by mid 2010 things were starting to kind of pick up again.
Got it. So rather than woes me and complaining and being depressed, you were saying, hey, I'll take any deal I can get. And if I'm not doing deals, I'm getting in front of people and I'm building relationships. You had a positive mindset, which that's incredible. And I imagine that probably built the foundation for you to, as a springboard when the market came back, because you were already putting the time into those relationships. So once the market started turning, talk to us about what you started experiencing in your business in 10, 11, 12, 13, as it started progressing. What was that like?
Yeah, that's kind of, I think one thing also that I'll say in 2009, 2010, in that area, I started getting into personal development pretty heavily. So I made the decision to turn off CNBC. I'd recently gotten divorced and I would sit there and turn the TV on. I lived by myself and I felt fine. And then after watching CNBC in the morning, I felt like,
life
down in the
sucks.
dumps.
I'm depressed and I'm going to go back to sleep.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to turn off the TV. And that's, not that I don't ever watch TV, but like I'll watch some sports or whatever, but I don't watch shows. So yeah, I'm missing out on the greatest Netflix, series or whatever, but I'm willing to make that trade-off because I get up in the morning and, kind of do my morning routine and go work out and all these things, because I feel like we got to get our mind right, so so it was kind of an interesting time, a lot of personal growth at that time as well, and some struggles for sure. But yeah, I think then what I started doing was really building out my business. What do I love about this business? Like, I don't know how to cold call. I don't know how to do a lot of those things. First of all, I wouldn't enjoy that. I've never cold called. I mean, not that I have, but it's not something that I have done maybe more than a handful of times. So, so I just started meeting people and connecting with people and trying to make introductions for them and see how I can add value. And then, one thing led to another. And that's kind of why I'm in Miami and Broward as well, because I'm kind of all over. My network I'll go wherever the network is. And then on the sports side, I started being strategic and saying, okay, well, I tried going to the nightclubs and buying tables, and that was a waste of $1,500, like definitely not going to get any business from this, so did that a few times, but then I started getting strategic, got linked up with the Miami Dolphins and started being able to do some education and built out a whole PowerPoint for rookies and started doing that. And then, one thing just led to another and just, being of value. I think like what I said earlier, like, let me be strategic. And I think these athletes need, they're asking me for, it started off with like one or two athletes, hey, Ben, can you review a contract for me in Jacksonville? Or, hey, I want to build a house in Denver. Do you have a realtor there? And I said, yeah, I don't, but I will get you one. Just hang on,
Yeah.
And so within a couple of hours, I would start figuring out how to vet realtors in different markets and, going through all this kind of stuff. And after many, many years, building out a good referral network and pipeline of realtors in different markets, and then joining Compass, transferring that network into the Compass community of agents, and that sort of thing. So I was kind of building my niche within sports and entertainment, dealing with the gatekeepers. I mean, yeah, there's a business manager that I cold called probably for 10 years before he gave me the time of day. So I would cold call those people.
Yeah.
But, I wasn't kind of hammering the phones for just general real estate.
Right. So very strategic in your approach, very deliberate, and, adding value in the education piece is really smart, especially when you're talking about that type of clientele. And it's like, that's such an important place to educate these young people coming into tons of money with no financial education and no family money at all and no financial education. And that's just a perfect platform for you to add value. And I know I've taken that approach as well. And I think that's really smart. You know what? There's no guarantees. I think people got to understand you're not doing this with the guarantee that you're going to get any business. You got to just give your intellectual capital and educate people, and maybe it will come back to you, and hopefully it does, but it doesn't always. You just got to know, you got to keep putting it out there. And I think a lot of young agents don't know that.
Yeah, and I think, Danny, also, like you mentioned, it's not as glamorous as it seems to be, and you and I know that. And one thing I'll say to that is, like, even right now, there's a lot of very well-known NFL athletes that are coming down to South Florida to train, and they want to rent a place for a couple months furnished, and they have very high expectations. And the sports agents or the business managers are reaching out to me, and it's difficult. I mean, like, there's no money in it, first of all, but it's not even that. It's like, I want to do it to be of service and all day long, but it's just hard. Like, there's not enough inventory. And even some of the guys that I helped put into places last year, now the prices are 50% more expensive, and they're upset. And it's like, well, hey, listen, I don't control the rental market at this building. I mean, this is the situation. So it's, the short-term rentals are tough, and we get a lot of that from the athletes, and it's a different business model. I think that's why, like, Airbnb has become such a big business, because we as realtors don't have access a lot of times to the short term, and we don't manage. It's very management intensive, but people don't realize that.
So intensive, so much work. And how many times have you set up a tour all day long and blocked out your day, and an hour before they cancel, and then you got to call everyone back and they're upset. And then when you do finally find the place, and the place gets destroyed because there's parties and this and that. Anyway, yeah, it's a lot of headaches and not a lot of glamour for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got a record label guy right now, and luckily we got him into a signed lease, but we were 0 for 2 on a very expensive lease because one of the rappers under his record label, there was an article about him trashing a place for $250,000. And the landlords, of course, found out about that. I was unaware of it up front, but then, so it's, if we're dealing with just a regular person, you knock out that $35,000 a month lease right then and there. It's good. But with these clients, it's different. There's a different
animal altogether. So what are some of the challenges that you're facing now in your business, now that you've built out a huge business with a team? What are some of the things that keep you up at night, things that stress you out? And then I also would like to dovetail into you mentioned that self-development. I know you're big on meditation and mindfulness. So kind of walk us through your challenges now, and then how you deal with those challenges.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is we want to control the outcome in this business, and it's very hard to control when you have very limited inventory. So I look at my listing count and say, oh, this is the least amount of listings that I've had in a long time, and that feels kind of weird, right? And then and then you bring a listing to market and it's gone. So, I mean, which is a good thing. So there's like that extreme level of hustle for the first like 3-4 days to get everybody in there and run a transparent process and deal with all the anxiety that they're putting on. And I think on the buyer side, it's trying to find the inventory. I mean, like just having these people that I'm helping and feeling like, man, I'm not doing enough. Like I can't, I need somebody full time working the phones. And that's where that revelation came to me. So I literally just hired a recruiter yesterday, and I said enough of trying to piecemeal this off-market stuff together by WhatsApp groups with other brokers and making the phone calls to other brokers. And I'll still do that, but I need to elevate that. So that's been the biggest thing this year, and it's hard this year because you don't have the predictability of a certain amount of listings, or kind of knowing that you'll be able to match up the buyers with a property that you've got, because right now that's not a given. And I think the other thing that we're seeing is less loyalty in the business with buyers. If a buyer has an agent that they meet off the street, but that agent, or at a bar, through a school function, whatever, if that agent has something off market at that moment in time, can you blame the buyer for not working with us as their primary agent if that other agents? So I think it's an interesting opportunity for younger agents to really work the off markets. And I think for those of us that are more seasoned, we have to adapt our business model to do that, because you and I may not have the time. The younger agent has the time to work the phones. We're not necessarily doing that, so we're kind of at a disadvantage in that sense right now. So it's an interesting time in the market.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always been tough with buyer loyalty in our business because of what you're saying in any market. But when it's an extreme seller's market with a shortage of inventory, it becomes even more acute, and you're seeing it more and more where their buyers feel like, oh, whoever brings it to me, I'll go with. I don't care who they are. I don't care how bad they are or anything else. I just need to get into a property. And like you said, all you can do is adapt. That's how it is. There's nothing we can do about it. And all you can do is adapt. So,
and that's the beautiful thing of the industry, I think, is like we're always challenged. Like nothing's ever exactly what we think it is. And once we think we've got it, it's like Jerry Garcia, like when life looks like easy street, there's danger at your door. Like don't get too comfortable, because the market's about to change on you, and you're going to have to go hire this person and figure it out. And I think that's the thing. Sometimes we're not great I'm not great at building out systems and operations necessarily. So last year I hired a director of operations to really help me with that, because I'm like, what is it that I would love to do? I love to bring in business, build relationships, negotiate, and some of those things. I don't want to do these other 95 things. So let me try to be less busy on all that stuff and outsource that. And, there's a guy, Rory Vaden, on the Lewis Howes podcast I listened to recently. And he I love what he says. He's like, eliminate. It's like, think of a funnel, at the top of the funnel is eliminate. What can you eliminate that you shouldn't be doing? Whether it's watching TV, keeping you up too late, or drinking that extra beer, or just doing, BS activities that, administrative things that you really shouldn't be doing. The second thing is automate. What can you automate? So that I really took to heart, and building out the structure and the systems and processes and all this stuff. And then the third part is to leverage and train. And he says something cool. It's like the 30X rule. So if you're going to train somebody, if it takes 5 minutes, put 150 minutes into training them how to do it, because the payback is there. And so it's that.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a key component to scaling and to having a life in a business that's 24/7. Figuring out what you can eliminate, what you can delegate, training, all these things are, this is grad school for how you build a real estate business for sure. I love hearing all this. So let's talk a little bit about your personal stuff, your meditation, your mindfulness. I know that's a big part of who you are, but walk us through how you got into that, what your practice is, and what does your typical day look like? Is it a morning routine you do? Is it a end of the day routine? Talk to me about that.
Man, I could talk all day about this stuff. So I'll try to keep it really concise, Danny.
Yeah. The 30-second version.
I got into it. I wasn't trying to be mindful or spiritual or any of that stuff. It was like I was in my mid-20s and I was getting into residential real estate, and I wasn't sleeping well a lot of times. I started taking some sleeping pills, started taking some Xanax when I was like, okay, tonight I really need to sleep. So I'm going to take some Xanax.
Yeah.
And then I would go for a few more nights. Like, tonight I really need to sleep. I'll take some Xanax. I was like, screw that, man. Like, I don't want to do this. This is not who I am. Like, I'm trying to be healthy. And so I had to confront what is it? It was anxiety. And, and I realized I came across meditation. And so I started meditating, and then I would do it like most of the time. Then I would do it on the weekdays, but I wouldn't do it on the weekends, because I'm like, I don't want to wake up on a Saturday morning and meditate. Like, come on, But I started realizing, like, no, this is actually the most important thing I can do. I started telling myself that mentally, but it didn't really hit home, didn't really fully embody that until, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, where I said, no, I'm going to meditate every day because I need this. Like, I don't want to wake up Monday morning after a weekend and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to recapture how I felt on Thursday and Friday from last week. Like, it just kind of these highs and lows. So anyway, I started, just digging in, like reading, taking courses, like just full on. It's a huge rabbit hole to go down. So studying Zen and Buddhism and energy movement and, just all these things. It's such a broad world, right? Studying Tony Robbins and, just some personal development people, and just doing a lot of contemplation, like on my own. So meditation, breath work. So, I mean, like a typical morning now is like, I'll wake up, I'll meditate for 20 minutes. If I can do more, like I'll try to get an hour meditation in during a week, but it's usually a mindfulness based meditation where I'm just catching my thoughts. They're going off, I'm bringing them back. It's kind of like doing a rep in the gym, the way I see it, every time you lift that, you do that bicep curl, you're making that bicep stronger. Every time you catch the mind wandering and bringing it back, you're refining the mind, you're understanding the nature of the mind more. And to me, that's fascinating, because I'm like, I love people. I love understanding people and psychology and coaching and all this stuff. So anyway, so I'll meditate, then I'll do like some affirmations that I've kind of come up with. They're memorized, so I kind of know what they are. They evolve over time. Then I'll do some breath work to start the meditation as well. Then I'll do some like Wim Hof breathing, if you know about Wim Hof, the Iceman.
Cold Iceman.
Yeah, so I'll do some breath holding, but I don't do it exactly the way he talks about it. But anyway, that's kind of the idea.
You do the cold water, the cold bath?
I don't have one at home, so I'll do some every now and then. A couple of my buddies have them, but I don't do that as part of my daily routine. No. And then I'll do some energy movement, where I learned some techniques through something called the International Academy of Consciousness years ago. And anyway, it's pretty cool. Like, your energy movement and manipulation. And that's pretty much it. Like, that's pretty much it. And then gratitude. So then I'll finish it off with like gratitude practice. And I'll tell you what, like at the end of that, no matter how I woke up feeling that morning, I'm just like, I'm at basis and I'm above, like it's just in a great place. And then I'll go work out and, go do that stuff. And then, so I get up early because that whole thing takes like an hour. So
it's an hour of all, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It ends up taking 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
How early are you getting up?
Like 4:30.
Woo! 4:30.
4:45, 5. Just depends on the day. Like if I'm going to ride the bike, I don't need 2 hours in the gym, but if I'm going to go to the gym, then I need a couple of hours. So it just kind of, and some days I'm just like, you know what? I need to sleep a little bit more. So yeah. So I try to be in bed by like, early. So then the nighttime routine, which is important, like try to stop working at a certain time to kind of start decompressing and, do a little centering practice before bed. I sniff some valerian root and some pine. I love the smell of pine, so I've got some pine scents that I smell, and that puts me in a good spot. Do some gratitude, do some stretching, do a little reading, and so that's like. And then throughout the day, like just one thing that's really been life changing for me, and I'll shut up after this, is just like the gratitude practice. Like I didn't learn this in school or growing up, but
They don't teach this.
I realized they don't teach this stuff to you. Yeah, it's like they don't teach you how to have a marriage and how to raise kids and all that, right? Like how to operate a business and how to manage your finances. But the gratitude thing has been a huge thing for me because like I start by doing it in the morning, then I start realizing, oh, I'm in line at the bank or whatever. And rather than the instinct is like, I want to look at my phone. How are my cryptos doing? How are my stocks doing? What's the news? Like we all feel the social media, whatever. And I'll be like, no, you know what? I can think about like 3 things that I'm grateful for right now. And let me do that. And so it's like, it's just such a mind expansion and energy expansion doing that. And it started realizing I'm driving and I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for. Now that's not always, I mean, of course, sometimes I get in the funks and that kind of stuff, but I realized like yesterday was a tougher day because I was on the road all day. Then I got back at like 4. I had like dozens of text messages and phone calls. I got to get back to people, over 100 emails, deals. It's like, man, like this is crazy. Like started having resistance, but I was aware of my resistance and able to like kind of manage it. Whereas the old me would have just, I don't know, like just wanted to explode.
Yeah.
And now at least I was like, okay, I'm aware that I want to explode and I'm aware that I can do some breathing and stop resisting it. I just gotta knock this out. Like I don't have another choice. So let me just do it. And I'm not saying that it was like, sitting on the clouds or whatever, but I was able to handle it a lot better than how I've previously handled those kind of situations. But that's our life, that's how we do it.
You clearly are a believer, clearly from what you've said, that this has really impacted you in a positive way and how you react to a stressful career, stressful life, etc. But it's really helped. Now you're doing what I consider like the full Monty of this. I've done it on and off, some mindfulness, some meditation. Sometimes I'm consistent, sometimes I'm not. But you're really disciplined about it, and it clearly works for you. And I just think people need to, if they're having issues, or even if they're not, people should try it, because just that gratitude piece alone. I know for me, the same way, when I'm in a bad mood, I try to remember to get back to a place where I can think about a couple things I'm grateful for, which, by the way, if you wake up and the people you're closest to and love the most aren't sick and dying, that's a pretty good start right there for being grateful. So I'm not perfect at it either, and I obviously get sucked into the chaos and the stress, but I always try to come back to that too. And I think that alone is big. And doing the meditation, mindfulness, it's a discipline, but if you can do that, it really does help you be flexible and pivot when your stuff's coming at you a million miles an hour. And
yeah. It's like the meditation to me, like that's the easy part. It's like when you get that phone call or when something happens, it's like that's the meditation in action.
Yeah,
like that's
before you react.
In
between the reaction, how do you deal with getting it and not reacting?
Yeah. Like Viktor Frankl talks about the in Man's Search for Meaning. He talks about creating like the space between the gap between the stimulus and your response.
That's
and it's
it.
like a lot of times it feels instant, but no, it's actually not instant. Like by being aware of the mind and the body emotions. Like I did a 10-day Vipassana a couple of years ago, and it's like a silent meditation retreat. Everything is silent, no talking, no looking at people, no writing, no listening. It's like you just meditate like 10 hours a day. It's very intense. But the thing that you learn is like equanimity of the mind and awareness of body sensations. Like that's it. It's very simple. And you're either you're clinging for something or you're resisting something. You're pushing something away. It's like life is so simple when you break it down like that, yet it's so nuanced, and you never know when life's going to come at you and you're going to be, tempted or wanting to resist or cling so anyway, I just feel like it's really good. And one thing I was going to say about the meditation or the morning routine, it is hard, but it's hard when you start the practice. But like Jerzy Gregoric, I don't know if you know, he's a Romanian powerlifting coach and whatever, older guy. He wrote a book called The Happy Body, but he said something which is like my favorite quote. It's hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life. And so the hard choice is to start the practice of these things, but then you start seeing, life is easier, life is better. And now it's like, well, that's not even hard for me to do. Like I actually enjoy like the contemplation. I love the stillness. I love getting out of this crazy life for a little bit of time and just being able to like have some stillness. And some people love exercise. I mean, there's many ways to get into flow state, but I feel like that's one of them. Like when you're going for a jog, or when you're meditating, or when you're doing something to build your personal, inner strength.
What would be a couple books or the audio things to listen to that you would recommend for someone that was like, hey, I'm interested in starting to look into this and maybe has no exposure to it? Where do you think, what would be a good place to start? If you want to read a couple books or follow somebody or listen to somebody speak.
Yeah, there's a guy. I mean, for meditation specifically, there's a guy, John Kabat-Zinn, who's kind of like I don't know, I guess the father of mindfulness, really. And a lot of like the Sharon Salzbergs and Ram Dass and some of these people, went to India and came back in the 70s, and it was more Buddhist style. But John Kabat-Zinn there's no robes, there's no Buddhist sansara and all the mentions of Buddhism terms and things. You don't need to learn that stuff. He's like very good about how he puts that out. Is just, hey, this is just a practice. It's not secular. It's just a practice. So John Kabat-Zinn, and he's a great one. Then a lot of the Buddhist texts and a lot of those teachers that brought meditation to the West in that era are great. I mean, I love Alan Watts. He wrote The Way of Zen. That's a little bit more Zen based stuff, but there's so much out there. But I think those Alan Watts, he's got some great audio recordings on Audible. I think Sam Harris, he's got a good app. I think it's Making Sense podcast. I think it's called the Waking Up app. But there's Headspace. There's a lot of these things out there.
Apps, yeah. Calm
for people to get started on too. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff. All right, so if I'm jumping on a plane, I'm coming out to Miami tomorrow. Where are you taking me to dinner? There's some good spots in Miami or South Florida right now?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many new ones too, like Carbone
sure.
and some of these, which by the way, you can't even get a reservation there. A buddy of mine was there the other day and he's like, yeah, there's like 13 billionaires having dinner here tonight. So it's all San Francisco, it's all Silicon Valley,
Yeah, right.
tech executives and stuff. But so there's some of the fancier places like the Faena House and some of the places on Miami Beach. I think there's like a really cool place that's more like it's not fancy, but it's called Palapa, which is in like Upper Buena Vista, which is just north of the Design District and Wynwood. Like some of those areas are just so cool. So it's like
Wynwood.
You can go to dinner there at a pop-up restaurant, see a performance, get your aura reading, do some perusing at like a gallery that's there, have some drinks at the bar, and then go home. And it's all right there. You don't have to leave. It's like it's really, and get an ice cream after dinner. It's just like all contained in these little neighborhoods that are kind of developing. So there's so many of those kind of places too. And it's not just South Beach. It's, you have Coconut Grove and Wynwood and Design District. So
there's so much going on in so many different areas. And what would be just a couple like high profile buildings that we should be aware of? Anywhere in that South Florida area, there anything that stand out that, hey, these are the buildings you should be aware of what we're getting some huge sales in?
Yeah, I see a lot of buildings, and there's one that I really like called Elysee in Edgewater. It's right on the water, and it's tight. I mean, it's just the way it looks on the outside, and the amenities are amazing in there. That one's pretty awesome. That's in Edgewater, which is just north of downtown, right on the bay.
Okay.
Another one that's amazing, I think, is Armani Casa, or Armani residences in Sunny Isles Beach. I mean, that Armani is just, to me, that's the best building in Sunny Isles. There's the Porsche Design Tower, but Armani is just, I mean, amazing building, from the amenities to the pool to everything, the units,
beautiful building,
the way they're finished. I'm a big fan of that. There's another one in Coconut Grove called Park Grove. And it's 3 towers. There's like 5 acres of space. You can walk downstairs. You have like, the Mr. C Hotel, Bellini restaurant right there. You have shops and restaurants. Like, it's just, you're right there in the heart of Coconut Grove, which is one of the most thriving little downtown villagey kind of places in all of South Florida that people love. So those are 3 projects that stand out that are on the newer side that are amazing.
Awesome, man. Well, that gives us some good context to South Florida and what's going on. So I appreciate you joining us today on The Deal. I'm sure we'll be talking soon about some clients going back and forth West Coast to Florida, and look forward to seeing you soon. But I appreciate you dropping some knowledge.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to talk to you, Danny. Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me on your podcast as well.
Yeah, I look forward to
Awesome.
seeing you
It's been a
soon,
good
man.
time.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
Likewise.
Ben. Take care.
Likewise, brother. Thanks,
Great job,
Danny.
man. Great job. You killed it. I knew I'd be
Oh,
good.
thank you. Thank you.
Gave us a good breakdown of what's going on out there. It's good.
Yeah, we talked a little mindfulness, all that good
A
stuff.
little
Too,
everything.
right?
We
So
covered
it's probably a little
everything.
different than normal.
Awesome.
When
All
what
right,
normally
brother.
comes up.
Well,
But
thank you. Have a good rest of your day, and let's stay in touch and hopefully do some business soon.
for sure, for sure. Let me know when, or I guess are you on Apple iTunes? I was gonna do this before and I didn't get to it. So where's the best place to find your podcast?
Oh yeah, we're everywhere. So yeah, Apple
Okay.
Podcast. It's on Apple iTunes, or you see the video is on YouTube. It's The Deal with Danny Brown. And
Okay.
once we get it edited, usually it takes a week to two to get it ready. We'll send you all the links, and then you could post it everywhere and blow it up, man. Ask people.
Awesome. No, I will, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was great.
And I look up to you doing this because I want to do a podcast one day too. So
It's fun. I've
it's an
enjoyed
amazing
it.
thing to
Doing
do
a couple
it.
Years.
Yeah.
We started it like 3-4 years ago, and I go in waves. When I can fit them in, I try to get them.
Yeah.
But recently I've tried to focus on all real estate people, and then trying to find key players in different markets, so people that are in real estate can get a perspective of what's going on around the country.
I love it. I love it. No, it's great to have the conversation with you. So congrats on that.
Thanks, Ben. All right, have a good day.
All right, take
We'll
care,
see you
Dan.
soon. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, brother.